Fighter, you ready?
Combate Global.
Oh, what a punch. What an incredible fight. Can you believe what you just saw? We have a champion.
Welcome once again to the best of Combate Global here on Fuse TV. I am Max Pretos. There is Alex Wendling. We have a great show. We're going to be looking at some of the wonderful prospects, some of the great fighters that we have here in this company, including Alex, one of my favorites, Ismael Kraken Zamora, the pride of Mexico City. He started his professional career here with Combate. He's been here ever since. He has been fantastic.
Yeah, he's a fan favorite for a reason, fighting out of Bone Breakers MMA with an 8-2 record. A lot of finishes, 5 of them by TKO. So he brings the action on the feet, but he's also incorporating that 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu as we've seen in some of his submission wins, which brings the funk, which brings a different element inside La Jaula. So it's a beautiful thing to watch. It really gets this new generation of MMA fans excited to watch a very diverse fighter.
I get excited. And what does it mean for a fighter to be one promotion? And he's done this. There's been guys and girls that have come in and out, but he has been true to this brand.
Yeah, I mean, the premier Hispanic MMA promotion. He wants to fight for people that can actually watch it on the Univision platform and then now on Fuse TV. So his loyalty speaks volumes of representing that country pride. Ismael, the Kraken Zamora, wanting to take his record even farther than his 8-2 that he has going on right now. Beautiful stuff.
A sophisticated MMA crowd down in Mexico. Ismael Zamora and his fight with George Garcia. We are back here inside the Jaula. There is gorgeous George Garcia fighting out of Van Nuys, California, with 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu with his background. Big spot for him as he faces one of the top prospects, Ismael Kraken Samora out of Mexico City.
And proudly wearing that Mexican flag, training out of Bone Breakers MMA, paying his respects to La Jaula before he enters and gives it all he has inside that cage. This is early on in his career. He's entering this fight with a 1-1 record. Trying to get on that winning streak.
Yeah, he was just getting started. All of his fights, and this is early in his career, all his fights have been with Combate Global. So here he's still a baby, getting used to it, seeing what kind of challenges he can expect. And George Garcia, for all intents and purposes, is a guy who could provide it. Plenty of fights under his belt over the age of 30.
Immediately, Ismael taking the center of La Jaula. Quite a dance that they have going on between these two. And a lot of speed that we see in these bantamweight divisions. So a lot of people don't just like to rush in because you can get caught. But these two respecting each other, feeling each other out, but a nice stiff jab and kick from Ismael.
Zamora, just 22 years of age at the time of this fight.
Such a baby.
Está en Pampers, as we say. Trying to get that lead leg.
That's what you got to do when you're young and hungry. You're not scared to take on different opponents. And at this point in his career, he knows he has a lot to work on and he just wants to test himself.
That's why it's tough to stay unbeaten or have a really prolific career, wins, losses-wise in MMA, because you get young started, you learn a couple lessons here. But you want to limit those as on cue, Garcia takes the back for a moment of Samora.
And the only time so far in his career at this point for Ismael was a loss by decision. So when you get those decision losses, you might be going in thinking, the judges kind of screwed me on that one. And that's the last time you ever want to go to a decision. You're always looking to fight, even if you are playing it calculated and trying to get as many strikes in volume-wise. He's always looking for the finish. And that's what makes him a Combate Global fan favorite on TikTok, on Snapchat, on Instagram. Especially the content that they make over there at Bone Breakers. They have some very interesting and almost primal drills that they do in the fight style that they train. So it's an awesome thing to make content for.
Coming into this fight, Zamora, 2 victories, 1 via submission, 1 via TKO. As we project further into his career, he has 5 KOs in his 10 professional fights. So we're continuing to see the growth, but we have known that about Zamora, that this is really where he butters his bread with the striking game.
Yes, especially on those short strikes that we just saw. He almost partially dropped George here many times, but he's keeping him up against the cage because he feels like that's where he is the most advantageous position. But again, great head positioning from Zamora. Solid uppercuts right there. But a crazy reversal, beautiful stuff, a head and arm throw, well executed, and now onto a front headlock.
Garcia did pretty well there after it was one-way traffic for the better portion of this opening round.
Now, both of these guys are pretty equal in size. So when we're in these clinch positions, you know, there's a lot of canceling out each other's power because they're similar builds. But who will be able to get the best of technique-wise? Well, here, we're seeing some unloading.
Trouble.
Beautiful striking.
Garcia drops, and it is curtains here. Alan Abeles, the referee, looking on.
Non-stop.
My goodness. Get out of there is the direction, but I don't think he's got anywhere to go.
Wow, it is over. Ismael Kraken Zamora gets it done in the first round. And you got to imagine that they practice that ground and pound on dummies all the time. It's got to feel pretty good to get to do it on an actual person, your opponent that you've been preparing months for.
Well, that dummy will give a little bit, maybe not so much the exoskeleton of George Garcia, who had some nice moments in the first round, but he was just outclassed here.
What a moment. After Kraken won that. And here he was looking for a Kimura grip for a second, but again, it was just the moments within the clinch that I was so impressed by. He was really able to capitalize off of those short strikes and the uppercuts. This combination is where it really
That third one dropped him.
In the ground and pound finish. Knees straight to ground and pound. George Garcia was in a complete daze. And Alan Abeles had seen enough. Beautiful work from the Mexican.
Here's the third. Boom. On the button.
El Kraken, Ismael Zamora.
Impressive first round victory for Kraken Samora. Also, keep in mind, this was Mexico, USA, so national pride at stake. Important for him. This was very early in his combate career, Alex, but what a great win to get there back in 2022. He's just growing.
I mean, you can't get much better than a first round ground and pound finish. The way he screamed at the end, you saw the passion in which he fights. It was a beautiful win for Ismael Kraken Zamora.
It's wonderful to see him develop. And you asked the question, how do you find a prospect like Ismael Kraken Zamora? Well, we'll get the answer for you next. The fighters in the gyms all over the world. The boss man, Campbell McLaren, on how you find talent, how you keep them, how you groom them. That's all next here on the Best of Combate Global. We're back here on the Best of Combate Global, joined by the one and only Campbell McLaren. You're in a thumbs-up mood, huh? Is that what you were flashing? I couldn't see my peripheral vision.
No, it was thumbs. Don't worry.
Okay.
It wasn't other fingers. No, it's all good. It's great. I love being here. I love Fuse. We get such great comments from Fuse viewers, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't think people still did that, but apparently someone said,
What a nice letter.
I'm like the Bernie Sanders of MMA, which I think means cranky, white-haired guy, like yelling about stuff. So
It's better than SpongeBob's grandma, though. I like that.
Whoa.
Oh, yes, they did say I look like SpongeBob's
I've never
grandma.
seen SpongeBob's grandma.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea.
I've seen SpongeBob.
SquarePants. We know our
SpongeBob. I haven't
Fuse
seen the
TV
grandmas, what I'm
members
trying to
love
say.
SpongeBob.
What other MMA show references SpongeBob's?
I don't think there's any.
That's what we're bringing you, folks.
Well,
so,
welcome.
but we have other topics, Max.
Yes, we do.
Alex.
We were talking about Ismael Kraken Zamora, who is a
Kraken.
big star for Combate Global.
Huge.
At one point, though, he was an unknown, right? No. And Combate went out and discovered them. And we're going to talk about
Well, isn't that
scouting,
what we do?
recruiting
that's
fighters.
What we do.
Let's tell the audience how you do it. How do you go and find fighters?
Well, there's a couple things really to think about. You know, there's only... Look, the UFC is the absolute world leader in MMA. That's not controversial. I helped start the UFC. That's how it is. So they've got the best fighters in the world, 25 to 35 years old. They just do. They're under contract. You can't have them. They're under contract. So you can go for the guys that have, and girls that have aged out, retired, come back from retirement, been thrown out, whatever. Or you can do what Combate does, which is look for the newest fighters, for 20, 21-year-old, 22-year-old fighters. We give some pro debuts. We search throughout the Americas and Europe, a lot of fighters coming to us from Spain and from France. And obviously, when we started with Combate, we did start with Mexico. And a guy like Kraken comes out, you don't know who he is, you haven't heard about him, but then you see him fight and you realize this guy's exciting to watch. And what is he up to? He's 8-0 at this point?
He's 8-2.
8-2. So he's demonstrated that he can fight. He's demonstrated that he can go the distance. He's demonstrated that he's a guy you really have to take seriously in Combate.
And with that 8-2 record, all of those fights were in the Combate Global Jaula. So he's a really homegrown Combate star. So how important is that to you, that he shows that loyalty and really leaves it all out there in La Jaula every time?
Well, it's important that he puts on a great fight every time. But look, he's under contract. So, dude, you're not going anywhere. Okay, so that
Reality check.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You're not going anywhere. Our contract's pretty solid, yo. And we have as many attorneys as we have fighters on our roster. So, no, in all seriousness, we appreciate that.
He loves scare the fighters.
Good.
Yeah, it can scare the fighters.
I can't.
But he chooses to come back all the time.
Yeah, he is putting on a show every time. That's what counts. That's what counts. He cares about his fans. And a lot of the times, Kraken, my Spanish is not that good. His English is improving. But through my friend Raul, who runs Bone Breakers, the camp where he trains in Mexico City, he always comes up and he goes, I want to impress Senor Campbell. That I do appreciate. That I appreciate.
Let me ask you that, because you mentioned Bone Breakers. What's the gym culture like when you go out there? Because this is where obviously the fighters congregate, and this is where you say, okay, this guy, you get the feedback, the intel. What is it like, not just in Mexico, but in all the places you visit?
I think, we all train in gyms here, and, there's Equinox, which is where I go. And then there's like fight gyms. And
yes.
The fight gyms,
it's not 24-hour fitness.
The fight gyms are very different because they're fight gyms. And they oftentimes are grittier and a little more real. And one time I was in a boxing gym, they had a big sign that said, no defecating in the urinal. And I took a picture of the sign. And then someone crossed out defecating, because a lot of the fighters didn't know what that meant, and they put shitting above that. So no shitting in the urinal. So, but that gives you an idea. The gyms are rough and tough, right? And then imagine going to Ecuador or Monterrey, and it's a different level of tough too. So our scout team and Tony Padilla, Micah Framowitz, Arafat Torres, they're, the greatest at going out, finding us new talent. And they've made contact with all these gyms. Mexico City has Bone Breakers. They actually have 24 different gyms around Mexico, but they certainly have the best name in the gym business. Like Equinox, I don't even know what that means.
It's very accurate, too, when you have Anna Palacios breaking bones.
Bone Breakers.
Yeah. I will say, if I'm just going to go to the sauna or the treadmill, I don't want to go to a gym called Bone Breakers.
No, that's not why you're there. And no defecating in the urinal. Please.
And obviously, there's a lot of stars coming from Mexico, but are there any other regions that you are interested in growing more sports in?
Oh, of course. And I think the UFC has now discovered Mexico the way Cortez discovered Mexico. So I think what we have always looked to South America to be ahead of the game. Chile is a great place.
Oh, yeah.
Peru is a great place. Argentina's coming along. I would say Chile and Colombia are probably the most developed for fighters. But I got to say, what happened Spain? España.
They're struggling?
You used to be the conquistador. Now you're the one getting your ass kicked continually. I love the Spanish fighters, but I don't know. What has happened?
You don't have an answer to that? You don't know. It's just they've been knocked off the perch a bit, because they used to be the bull of the woods around here.
I think the level of competition in certain countries just keeps coming up. I mentioned Chile. I mentioned Colombia. I mentioned Peru. Mm-hmm. I think the Spaniards were a little ahead of the game, and I think folks have caught up.
They got comfy.
They got comfy.
Yeah.
We shall see. Well, it's an incredible way to develop this sport better, and we'll keep our eye out for the next big star. They're on the lookout. We are back here on the Best of Combate Global. Time to profile one of the great fighters on our roster. We are looking at Roberto El Charro Negro Romero, a guy who started with the company in 2021. We have seen him grow to become a really all-rounded fighter. He is one of my favorites, hands down, Alex, because we've seen that growth. He continues to do it, and he's very exciting inside the Jaula.
Yes, he has a 7-3 record. His last fight was against Pat Lahane, who is one of our toughest fighters in the iconic Mexico versus Ireland rivalry. He came up a little bit short, but you know, when you lose, you learn a lot, and you're ready to bounce back. So the next time we see Roberto Romero, we could be seeing a completely different fighter. And this is a guy who was born in Chihuahua, Mexico. He brought his skills to the U.S., Southern California in particular, to improve his striking, his ground game, and that shows the commitment that it takes for an MMA fighter to really take it to the top. And he's surrounding himself with the best of the best over there in Southern California.
We don't get a lot of fighters from Chihuahua. We get fighters from Baja California. You get Mexico City, but it's interesting that if you get a fighter like that to see that, I got to get better training. It's all due respect, but I got to get better training. He has sought it.
Yeah, he sought it, and now he's surrounding himself with elite people, not even just MMA fighters, boxers as well. And the reason why he got into MMA training in general was because of his brother who influenced him. So his whole family bloodline is very intertwined inside MMA, and he is ready to bring that dog out inside La Jaula when he makes his return to Combate Global.
145, tough division too. I mean, he's in there.
The toughest.
The toughest, agreed.
And on Combate Global, the most stacked. You got Ramiro Jimenez. I mean, there is a list of people that could challenge him, and he's ready for it all.
And his nickname is Charro Negro. We think it's Zorro. It's a cowboy. Anyway,
it rolls off the tongue
him.
nice.
We will ask him when we see him. Let's get to know Roberto Romero right here.
Mi nombre es Roberto Romero Hernández y soy de Chihuahua, México. Mi apodo es el Charro Negro y surgió porque pues, es una manera de rendirle honor a mi hermano mayor, ya que pues él antes le decían el fantasma cuando era más joven, entonces pues de alguna forma tomé su nombre, pero poniéndole algo mexicano ahí. Pues para mí siempre representar a México ha sido un gran orgullo, la verdad, levantar mi bandera frente a un público internacional, o sea que exponer mi bandera al mundo, o sea, pues para mí es un gran honor, créeme. Pues para mí dejar Chihuahua para empezar a entrenar en California ha sido un reto muy grande, la verdad, porque pues he tenido que dejar todo, mi familia, mis amigos, mi gente, pero sobre eso pues simplemente ha sido poner trabajo duro, mucha dedicación y mucho enfoque.
Pues yo me encuentro en Santa Ana, California, entrenando tiempo completo. El gimnasio se llama Team Oyama, nuestro coach, main coach, su nombre es Colin Oyama. Él es de Hawái, de ascendencia japonesa, tiene mucha experiencia dentro del Muay Thai, dentro del mundo de las artes marciales mixtas, ya que él fue uno de los pioneros que pues, inició con Pride y pues las primeras empresas de artes marciales que existieron aquí en este gimnasio. Team Oyama, la verdad, pues me han acogido muy bien, porque aquí la verdad se concentra un gran nivel de peleadores. Me han unido al equipo y la verdad es de que pues he progresado mucho y aquí seguimos. Pues yo me considero un peleador más striker. Pues me gusta la pelea de pie, me gusta mantener la pelea pues, tirando fregazos ahí, pero también a este punto ya me considero un peleador completo, que si es necesario llevo la pelea al piso, la mantengo en el piso, finalizamos en el piso, y pues lo que se tenga que hacer hacemos los ajustes para llevar la pelea a cabo. Yo peleo por mí, peleo para representar a mi familia, representar a los míos, a la gente que viene atrás, pero pues más que nada esto es lo que me gusta hacer, esto es lo que yo amo hacer, pero siempre con el apoyo de ellos y con mucha motivación de ellos que pues están ahí detrás de mí, pues eso es mi gasolina, pues. Bueno, a diferencia de otros peleadores, yo creo que algo que me representa mucho y me diferencia mucho de ellos pues es el corazón que pongo en la pelea. Yo me subo ahí siempre con la mentalidad de pues matar o morir y así es como yo me subo. Mi fortaleza es que la verdad yo nunca me quiebro, la verdad yo soy una persona que va a dar todo de sí ahí arriba del jaula, va a buscar la manera de ganar esa pelea y es lo que voy a hacer, me voy a subir y voy a finalizar a mis rivales. Si no finalizo a mis rivales, me voy a encargar de que esa pelea se gane.
Obviamente pues los códigos, los valores siempre me gusta llevarlo, me gusta respetar a mi rival, me gusta pues ser un peleador, pero más que nada ser un arte marcialista. Me gusta llevar esa esencia a la jaula. Pero pues obviamente el trabajo es lastimar a tu oponente, entonces pues sí, por ese lado sí soy una persona distinta. Pues la verdad para mí significa mucho que Combate me ponga en carteleras estelares, que me ponga con grandes peleadores, ya que para mí pues es el mérito del peleador, ¿no? Que pelear con gente buena, pelear en promotoras buenas en grandes niveles. Lo más valioso que me ha dado el MMA, pues la verdad es todo. La verdad es de que yo le debo todo al MMA, sinceramente, desde chico, desde los 3, 4 años yo estoy entrenando artes marciales, entonces, pues sinceramente para mí ha sido un refugio este deporte y pues le debo todo lo que tengo ahora.
You see it there. It's like a misconception on combat sports that these guys are like street fighters. I mean, he could not be a sweeter young man. He's got all together, respectful, you name it.
Yeah, during fight week, he's bringing his mom everywhere. He's like, can I bring her to my photo shoot as well? So the sweetest guy outside La Jaula. But yeah, when he's inside La Jaula, he's a beast. So don't mess with him.
Yeah, don't get those confused. Real sweet outside. Maybe you want him to date your sister or something, but inside the Jaula, he is tough as nails. We'll be back with more Combate Global as we get to know more of our fighters. We're back here on the Best of Combate Global, and Alex, the audience has spoken. You know what they've said?
What did they say?
They want more Ismael Kraken Zamora.
Rightfully so.
And we're going to show you his last fight. So he is certainly building up, getting better, and he had the challenge of Eric El Samurai VSM to see if he can take it to another level.
And that nickname is definitely very fitting for Eric VSM. He represents Venezuela, and anytime he comes out initially, he's throwing haymakers at the gate. So if you can survive that first round, you should be good because he might gas himself out, but you never know. So Ismael had a lot to take on with this fight.
And he has a big target on his back, as usually is the case, but this is what how you develop as a fighter is all about. We're going to take a look at this contest inside the Jaula as it was Ismael Kraken Zamora taking the challenge from Venezuela, the man named Eric El Samurai VSM. Let's get to the action. Eric VSM El Samurai out of Maracaibo, Venezuela, and there he is. You know him, love him, Ismael Zamora.
And look at this face-off. Zamora being very hype, but Eric VSM looking calm, cool, and collected. We love the karate kicks he likes to throw out there, but he is a guy that has been known to almost empty out his gas tank in the first round because he's just trying to end things as quickly as possible. And we're seeing that as he's going for that takedown. Those take a lot of energy.
This was in December of 2023. This is, at the time, the most recent fight for Kraken, as he had amassed a 7-2 record coming into this, showing that he has knockout power. We had seen that earlier in the show in the victory over George Garcia, but he is a seasoned fighter, and he is going for that leg lock.
Yeah, he's going for the leg lock here, but he didn't have the hip control. But when you're going for a leg lock ever, you're either trying to get a straight ankle lock or you're trying to attack the ligaments on the knee, in the knee. So he was trying to tear the ACL of Eric VSM, but because he didn't have the knee line and the correct foot placement, he wasn't able to capitalize there. But now he has the dominant position, looking to work to side control, and now even potentially a front headlock position.
Eric VSM came in knowing this could change the trajectory of his career with a win over the golden boy of Combate Global, VSM.
And VSM in this fight is coming off of a 2-fight win streak. He gets dropped there for a little bit, and he is just guns blazing, haymakers all day. Very unorthodox and crafty, high energy all around for the Venezuelan.
4 wins for VSM coming into this matchup, 3 of them via knockout. His last fight was his Combate debut, which he was victorious in. So he has a lot of momentum coming here, but he's starting to feel the wrath of Kraken.
Yeah, and the first round bell saves him a little bit there. But now we're on to round number 2. Let's see whose cardio comes into play here.
It's been a really good battle. 2 fighters, I think, have excellent cardio, showing that off because they're not being passive, both aggressive.
Yeah, they are both being extra aggressive right now, matching each other's energy. Ooh, we're going to see some front headlock game. Tried to get to the back, But VSM was wise to
good
it, and
right
a
hand.
solid elbow. Beautiful work. These guys are definitely eating some to get some.
Kraken Zamora, the favorite coming in, but he is in a battle as VSM able to roll out of that takedown attempt and catches the ankle.
Yeah, he's looking to work an inside heel hook here, loses the grip. It gets pretty hard in the second round when you're super slippery and you're trying to really isolate an ankle or a heel exposure. But here he doesn't quite have the knee line, so now at this point he's just trying to hold on for dear life.
They're tangled up in there.
It's been pretty fun. You don't really see a lot of leg lock attacks in MMA all the time, but once they get started, you start to see the openings for them all the time. But we'll see here if Kraken is able to capitalize on some ground and pound.
Trying to clear the guard. Still in the second round here, knowing both these fighters, if it does go the distance, this is key.
And Eric VSM, only 27 years old, going up against the younger Kraken. But both of these guys still have a long, long career ahead of them.
Going for the back.
Will he get his other hook in?
10
With
seconds
10
here in the second round.
seconds.
We're headed to a third round, Alex.
Love to see it.
Especially when it's like this, especially when there's so much output. This isn't a passive fight whatsoever. Big welt under that right eye of VSM.
Yes, very, very bloody. That'll definitely wake you up, get you a little angry. And Zamora has done a great job of catching those kicks and capitalizing on taking him down. It's kind of been the same old story within a lot of these. Wow! And Chris Minyoki stops the fight. He said he'd seen enough. A round 3 TKO for the Mexican, his bone breaker family, patting him on the back like, you just did it, boy.
16 seconds into round 3. Too much Kraken.
Great, great pressure. We love the passionate screams after a great win. Well deserved.
His 5th knockout victory. And I said too much Kraken? Well, guess what? Coming up, we have more Kraken here on the Best of Combate Global. We're back here on the Best of Combate Global, continuing our look at Ismael Kraken Samora. We are going to see a fight here, and you're going to see it in a little bit, that was an absolute war, went the distance, as he takes on the challenge of Kid Solo, Adam Ortiz. This was part of the card El Showdown Mexico, which obviously is a big deal for Kraken Samora. We get another look at him where you can see the growth and what he's worked on, whether it's on his feet, whether it's on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, El Showdown really representing the country pride, putting a lot of pressure on Kraken and Kid Solo, and none of them wanted to taste defeat. That's why it went the distance. But it honestly could have been stopped because there was just heavy volume from Ismael Kraken Zamora, who really got to show out against a fighter that had more experience coming in. So really impressive stuff from the Mexican.
You get to watch it and see if there was a spot they should have stopped the fight, all right? You be the judge. You get to take a closer look at that fight. We take a look back right now here on the Best of Combate Global. There is Adam Kid Solo Ortiz, Ismael Kraken Zamora, and Alex coming into this matchup. A lot of bad blood between these two. They were pretty vocal about this matchup, and finally they get a chance to take it inside the Jaula.
Oh yeah, a lot of hostility in the build-up to this match. Also, Adam Ortiz entered this bout in July as an undefeated fighter, all by finish. So there's a lot riding on the line. He is 100% confident that he's gonna finish the Kraken.
Ortiz with a couple fights in Combate Global, as Alex touched on. He won both of them. 3 via submission in his 5-0 record coming into this, 2 via knockout, and 3 first-round finishes.
And to the back is Kid Solo. He's really going to look to work in that wrestling game, go into the body lock again, and getting Kraken down to the ground. But we're going to see some of that hip flexibility from Zamora, who's working into a rubber guard position here. But that gets completely denied here by Adam Ortiz, who's aware of that 10-planet jiu-jitsu system.
Ah, the good old rubber guard.
Yeah,
sometimes it works, sometimes you can't quite get it around.
And again, another attempt at this leg here.
Grinding away is Samora. And it's you can see Ortiz is uncomfortable, trying to get him off.
Yeah, it's definitely on. Sometimes a lot of these MMA fighters won't tap to submissions like that, whereas in jiu-jitsu, people will typically tap if they know that their knee is going to pop. But these MMA fighters, they bring another level of crazy, so they'll hear one or two pops and just be like, oh, it's just a capsule, it'll be
Big
fine.
right hand by Ortiz.
Solid.
That hurt Zamora. He's trying to get out of there. Ortiz really impressive. This is a huge fight for him. If he can go 6-0 and beat one of the top prospects, the golden boy of Combate Global, he is on a rocket ship in his professional career. Huge next few minutes for Kid Solo.
Yeah, and Kid Solo just showing how hungry he is for that takedown. But he's going to have to keep the volume up on the feet against the Mexican, who is just nonstop, letting it fly to the body, stabbing shots to the body too, and then really turning over his punches when he's throwing overhands.
It's really impressive by Samora, getting the kicks on that lead leg and then working the body, still working it, fast hands, combinations.
Really impressively fast hands. Like, you just have time to process the fact that he goes for a body shot and then he's coming up with a hook next.
It's got Ortiz going back. Ortiz from Tucson, Arizona, big fight town. He's missing wildly. He's getting a little leggy.
Yeah, and sometimes when you can sense that your opponent is in their flow state on the feet, you just want to get into the clinch and slow them down, go for a takedown, do anything you can do to get them out of that groove. But here, Adam Ortiz, getting a little winded. And a nice left hand from Zamora, straight down.
We're going to go to a third round, but Ortiz is in trouble here. He needs to pick up his efforts in a big way. But he looks tired, and unfortunately for him, Kraken Samora looks like the fight just started.
Really hunting down his prey right now. Feeling a lot of confidence from Kraken.
Ortiz all beat up now. Bloodied face.
And it's tiring to move backwards like that. But he's felt the power of the Kraken, and he does not want all that smoke on the feet.
Tell me more about that. Moving backwards is, you don't want to do it because it's a defensive move. You're tired.
Yeah, you're tired, and when you're on the back foot, it's really hard to get some of your offense off unless you're really known for your counter-striking game, which Ortiz, at this point of his career, is not. He usually likes to come forward, so he's definitely out of his comfort zone with this style of fighting. But with that constant pressure of Kraken, sometimes you don't have a choice. You don't feel comfortable enough to go forward.
It's constant. Ortiz is not going to get a break.
Solid body shot again.
Upstairs, downstairs, out of left combination drops Ortiz.
And he is down, completely dazed. He's lucky there isn't too much more time left in the fight because, boy, did he get dropped.
This would go the distance, but clearly one-way traffic for Kraken Samora.
All that bad blood, I think, fueled Ortiz to not give up and stay awake on some of those takedowns and ground and pound moments.
Nice moment afterwards. They would embrace water under the bridge after the fight. Clearly going Kraken Zamora's way. He would have his arm raised. Victorious again. We're just getting started here on the Best of Combate Global. When we return, Alex inside the Jaula showing submission. We are back as we continue our look at Ismael Kraken Zamora. Up next, we are going to go inside the Jaula with Alex Wendling. She's going to break down one of the submissions from Kraken.
Welcome back to the Best of Combate Global, where we've been breaking down a bunch of crazy submissions, and we have an even better one on the way, an armbar between Ismael Kraken Zamora and Rick Zelada. So to help me break it down, we're going to bring in my trusty training partner, Christian. But before we do that, we're going to take a look at how the action broke down live.
Fighting out of Los Angeles, California, Slick Rick Zelada. De la Ciudad de México, DF, Ismael Kraken Zamora.
Really fighting to protect his unbeaten record. Samora came to fight another big elbow and then followed up by the forearm.
He started it. We're going to get the score just here in a few seconds. Should be. And there it is, Max. Ismael.
Yep, as we expected.
Working, Rick. As expected. And I'm curious to see if maybe one of these corners would it's very early in the fight. It's only the first round.
Oh, he tapped out. We don't have to see it.
Wow.
Celada taps out, and Ismael Zamora with a massive performance. Eye-opening, dominant. He won the first round, and he finishes it via submission in round number 2.
Impressive. He was searching for it earlier on in the second round. Now he was able to capitalize on it and won this bout. And mind you, he took on a guy whose strong base is jiu-jitsu.
Now, when we look at the submission that took place, Ismael Kraken Zamora is super crafty off of his back. He trains over there at Bone Breakers MMA, which is a very fitting nickname for the type of submissions he's able to pull off. So we're going to start in the closed guard. Christian in my guard. It looks like this might be a bad position for me, but the way Ismael Zamora was able to get the submission so quickly just shows how perfect his angle was in this situation. So he basically went to isolate this arm, and as soon as he went back, he didn't even have to put his opponent to the ground. He just put all the leverage right onto his arm and then hipped up. And basically, the whole point of an armbar, this is stuff that they teach 5-year-olds too. This is one of the most basic submissions that you'll see also in judo, jiu-jitsu, and little kids can do it, and you don't have to have a lot of weight. It's all about the angle and the way that you're using the weight that you have. It doesn't take a lot of weight to break a bone right here. So we're gonna isolate the arm, get our leg over, really be intentional with how we're using the leg here as weight. And then once we get our breaking point in the position that we want, which is against my hip, we're just gonna bend and make sure his thumb's facing up and break the arm. And Ismael did that. His opponent, Rick Zayalda, was super smart in immediately tapping because it's a quick snap when it comes to this type of armbar from close guard. Despite being against gravity, once you have this grip and you're just pulling up like that, it's lights out for your arm. So let's break that down one more time, really quick. Ismael Zamora, Bone Breakers MMA over there in City of Mexico, gets Rick into his guard. And before he even has the chance to do any ground and pound, he's isolating a wrist, getting wrist control, putting his leg up against him, making sure that his posture is broken down. And before Rick can even blink his eyes, he's just feeling pain in his arm and immediately having to tap. It was beautiful stuff by Kraken Samora, who is a star on the rise for Combate Global. If you guys enjoyed that submission, we have plenty coming up. Did you enjoy that?
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, right? I mean, sometimes you have to be the uke, sometimes you're the nail, sometimes you're the hammer. On this show, I'm very happy that I get to be the hammer 99% of the time. And we'll be bringing many more submissions to the best of Combate Global, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to the best of Combate. We see so much great action inside the Jaula. Sometimes you see stuff that goes to the beat of a different drummer. Have you anything stick out to you, Alex, of some odd things that may have happened inside there?
I definitely have some favorite moments, but as the TikTok manager for Combate Global, some of the most viral moments that we've seen inside La Jaula have come from celebrations because people really feel the heat of the moment. They got a lot of passion to show, so we see some very interesting things in there.
Wow, you must have seen some crazy things. You must have been managing the TikTok here in Combate. Well, you're going to get to see them too. And whether it's celebration, whether people protesting, it all goes into the pot of the very best or the strangest things we see here in Combate. We're going to look at some controversial moments. Two really good fighters. John Castañeda in the red, Marcelo Rojo, the Argentine. Castañeda chokes him out and then ends it by using Rojo's T-Rex celebration.
Whoa. I feel like that's what you look like in the morning, Max.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Sexy Mexi getting it done. What a celebration. A great, well-executed arm triangle completely knocks him out.
Sexy Mexi's had an incredible career. He's at last check 7 fights in UFC after parting ways with Combate, but that's a pretty good imitation. But usually that's what Rojo does. He can't be too thrilled about it.
Wow. What a slap to the face. You put him to sleep and then you take a celebratory stick That is a disgrace. But look at these two. Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor entering Combate Global Jaula.
He was a stripper back in the day. So, ladies or gentlemen, whoever, get your dollar bills out.
That is some magic Mike in
NSFW.
motion. I mean, I couldn't even imagine commentating that. Action by action, the hip gyration from Pretty Boy Taylor. Really letting him know that he is ready to make even more money after this event.
No half measures from him. He goes all out. Wow. Licking his lips, rolling his hips.
There's a theme here. He really works it.
He's pretty.
And he's really gotten into more influencer boxing, which is kind of the outrageous look that you need. And this is very on par with what he does.
Daniel Rodriguez on the right, Joel Champion. This is early in the days of Combate number 13.
Oh my God, is he on skis, slipping and sliding like Bambi on some ice?
D-Rod, big punches. These are some big dudes. Fight gets stopped, the Champion's like, wait a minute, I'm fine. I'm fine.
D-Rod celebrating, just got off of a huge fight with Kelvin Gastelum, really worked his way to the top of the division, and now this guy's throwing a hissy fit.
But look what he does here. I mean, he's upset, and then he just clears the Jaula in like one step.
Oh my gosh, the emotion. I mean, what did you think? Did you think it was a little early?
Yeah, here he goes. Look at that.
I'm out.
Hasta mañana.
Meet me outside. We'll do this again. Round 3.
Going to valet.
D-Rod's like, I'll take that win.
I don't know where he's got his parking ticket stub. D-Rod says bye.
What a moment. D-Rod is definitely a beast. Oh my gosh, he came back though.
Good.
He's like, we still have to call it.
He's still upset though. D-Rod was dominant there. That's my favorite part of the show. If Campbell was still here, I'd say it was the mean tweets when he's there, but he's not here. I'm going to just say that's my favorite part of the show.
Can we just make that the whole show, the whole time, just looking at weird things that have happened inside La Jaula? Because I feel like we have enough content to make that happen.
Yeah, I was about to say, you tell me, do we have enough Is there some stuff there that we can't air? You must see some crazy things.
I mean, I feel like we need to let the current fighters know that this is a segment and that they can get a little weird in current fights. Because now I think people are a little tuned back a little bit, but I think there needs to be some more outrageous moments. Build some personality within these fighters.
Great advice to all the fighters out there. Build some personality, and you can make that real at the end of the show.
Yeah,
I liked
twerking, whatever you want to do.
I liked it too because it brought back a lot of memories. You know, Combate's got a nice history, and we get to see it there. Some fond memories. We'll relive them. That's all the time we have.
I know, I'm bummed. We have to do this again very soon.
I know, it went by so fast. On behalf of everyone here, our entire crew, Campbell El Jefe of Combate, Alex Wendley, I am Max Pretos. We'll see you next time on Fuse TV.